It's a privilege to introduce Khaled to you. Just a few weeks ago, President Samuelson, Elder Hafen, Vice President Rogers, and I were in Damascus, and we had the privilege of having Khaled host us there. I would hope that we could just be just a fraction as good as he was in his visit to BYU today. My first introduction to Khaled was a few years ago when President Bateman asked that we do an Islamic Translation Series announcement event in Cairo, Amman, and Damascus. And I told another professor who has spent a lot of time in the Middle East that I could cover Cairo and Amman without any problem, but I didn't have any connections in Damascus. And he said, "Oh, don't worry, I do." I said, "Fine, if you'll worry about Damascus, I'll worry about Cairo and Amman." And I was limited on time and only had one day to be in Damascus. And so Professor Toronto and I flew into Damascus the evening before, and when we got there, I said, "Now, what's our series of meetings for tomorrow?" And he said, "Well, we don't have anything set up." And I said, "Jim, I only have the one day to set this up." And he said, "Well, I talked to Khaled Mahjoub, and he said to just call us when we got up and had breakfast, and he'd be over to help us." At 9 o'clock, we called Khaled. At 9:15, he was there. He said, "Now, whom do you want meetings with?" We gave him the list of people we'd like to meet with. He got on his cell phone. Within 15 minutes, we had an appointment with the Minister of Higher Education and with the Vice President of the University and the others that we had requested. He's a man of action. He's an interesting person. You'll love listening to him as to the vision he has as he deals with business, as he deals with Syria, as he deals with Islam, as he deals with education. I'm told that he had a very unique education in itself. Many of you may be aware of Hugh Nibley, whom we still have as a faculty member who's in his 90s here at BYU, who claims that his education didn't come in the classroom. His education came in the library, where he went to the library and he would start at one end and end up at the other end. Khaled has had that kind of experience, I understand, in business experiences, where his father was a businessman. And he gave him opportunities through friendships to go and be trained personally on experiences. And with that, has developed a insight to business from the ground floor by some of the best. And you'll see that in his thinking, and he develops his ideas with you. And so rather than take more time talking about him, let me simply turn the time to him for you to learn and to experience a Mahjoub experience as his vision, direction, insight, and I know you'll find it stimulating. Khaled, it's nice to have you here, and we'll turn the time to you.
Thank you very much. It's working? Okay. I'm not a speaker. The only thing is I'm extremely happy to be in BYU, to be with you. What I want to start with is I ask myself why I'm here and what I want to accomplish. The answers came to me in my mind as one of my role model is Brigham Young, as a president, Brigham Young. When we were in Syria with President Samuelson and the rest of the faculties, I was little bit, call it myself, digital, just 0-1 with President Samuelson, and I told him, you know, you're standing on the land of the pioneers, and 24th is the Pioneer Days. And I don't see BYU as pioneering anymore. I mean, I don't see the personality of President Brigham Young as affecting. I mean, I don't see anything really pioneering coming out of BYU. President Samuelson, he took it very positively, and he said, "You're right," and we talked about something that you know, can help and can come up with some ideas. No, BYU is pioneering. BYU have the foundation to lead the pioneers in many things. And the things that BYU have as administration, as faculties, as student. No other university have. It's very simple. It's teaching ethics. There's no other university that I know of, neither in Europe, Middle East, or in the US, is capitalizing on ethics like BYU. And this is something, it's the catalyst, it's the engine of how to resolve the problem of the future. If we go back to ethics, and if we implement ethics in everything, yes, we will resolve all the problems once and for all. So I'm here today is just to brainstorm with you, because I believe in Brigham Young, and I believe in Brigham Young University, from the president to the faculties to the administration to the student, that Brigham Young University can make a difference. We have several students of BYU that they visit us in Syria, and they were great ambassadors. They were great people, and the Syrian people have a positive memories about those students, and there's CDs that I think you have it. So anyway, to make the story short, I thought let's start on brainstorming session, questions and answers about problems, threat, worries, goals that we have in mind, and what is the solution. Because what I would like to come up out of this room was solution, with the possibility to implement even a small engine to resolve some of the problem. I'm not here to talk for the sake of talk. I hate, for the majority of the people that they go to, they think about talking to impress, not to achieve. For me, is I would like to, if I want to feel happy, is when we walk out of this door, that we have some kind of a small program or a pilot project that can really make a difference. So I would like to start as image versus reality. We would like to address the problems, the goals, and also come up with the solutions. First of all, I would like to agree with you on principles of our discussions, that we will be talking the same language. As you know, the problem today, it's a communication problems. So what is the civilization? That the space shuttle, the supercomputer are a civilization? No, the way we believe in, those are product of civilization. Civilization is the human being. So because the way people think about civilization, it's this country or this place is civilized based, that is, they have a high technology, etc., etc., etc. The technology, whatever, it's a product of civilization. As every creature is a human being, those people who kill, those are creatures. They're not in the level of human being. They need a lot to work on themselves to be as a human being. Every male is a man. There's a difference. The image that we have on something, it is 100% as the reality, or the image is different than the reality. We know that the image is not always correct. The other thing is we would like to, the way we'd like to resolve problem is to get hard on the problem, soft on people, to address the problem hard, to not finger point and say the labeling the problem, like what is going on today. For example, we talk about it as, I'm a person who voted for George Bush. I'm a Syrian American. Okay, I'm against his post-war plan, but I'm not against George Bush. The problem that we're facing today is, just I'll give that as an example, we see people that they're going against George Bush. Okay, that's wrong. We want to get against the problem, get hard on the problem. I'm against his post-war plan. We want to think in a reverse engineering. And we want to think with the natural law, with the law of the farm. We don't want to complicate things. We need what we see today is tactic solutions. There is no strategical solution. So there is no engines that they're being implemented to resolve the solution. They are just a quick fix. We want to go into a strategical solution, implanting engines to resolve the problem, not a quick fix. Questions that we have in mind. What does, okay, why we, the rest of the world, there's high anti-American sentiments. The question is, why this in the rise? Why is we're losing territories with the people, heart and brains in the rest of the world? That's a question that we all need to ask of ourselves, and we need to answer it. There's something we need to make it clear. 99% of the people in the rest of the world, they love the American peoples. They might have something against the administrations, but they love the American way of life. They love the American people. They respect those people. With Sandy, Sandy Roger, we were talking at lunches. There's no other place in the world that honesty and caring. It's like here in the U.S. So if when somebody who is not correct, we say he's not fair. So this is a culture where George Bush, before he became a president, I voted for him because he said we want to export the American values and the American dreams. The American values based on being fair, being just, caring. You know, before we start on that is also another thing. A lot of people in the rest of the world, and those are the evil-minded people, they hate us as Americans because they envy us. They envy our way of life. They envy what we have. So we have to keep that in mind. You know, in Islam, the people judge Islam from Muslims, from minor sects of Muslims, fanatics, close-minded people. They judge Islam. The real Islam is based on the first five surah came on Prophet Muhammad. The first surah was read, Iqra, to who speak Arabic here. You know, that was the first surah. It's an order to read, to learn. The second, we call it is Nun wal Qalam. It's the, he said, N and the pen. Write, I mean, document what did you learn. The third one is, he asked him to clean up himself inside and outside, to pray during the night, and to clean up his body and his clothes and everything. The fourth one, he asked him to go as the missionaries, to go and prosper, I mean, talk to the people, tell him about the gospel. But he have to be prepared. He have to be, first of all, he have to learn. He have to document what he learned. He have to clean up himself by night praying. He have to clean up his body. Then he could be able to go as a missionary and to taught people. The fourth one that everybody knows about it, they call it Al-Fatiha. The fifth one, they became Al-Fatiha. Those are the first five surahs that they came in Islam. But the problem is the interpretation of Islam today, it is the wrong interpretation because it has been interpreted by people who have a personal interest. 99.9% of the Muslim leaders, clerks, they have their own agendas and their own interest to keep controlling people. And the best way to control people is to control their mind. Do not think. In Islam, there is no clerks. There is no intermediate between the human being and God. It's a direct relation. What are the Islamic priorities? In the philosophy of Islam, what are the priorities? Priority number one is God, obey God. And number two is society. Number three is individuals. So this is the scale of how you prioritize things. In the relationship with God, it's a relationship based on forgiveness. The relationship with society and individuals are relationship based on delivery. If I do not deliver to you, that will never end. So that means I still owe you. With God, there is forgiveness, but with society and individuals, the other person or the other side have to forgive when I deliver. What is the woman's right in Islam? During Prophet Muhammad, women, they used to be with the Prophet and with all the people around him, working, days and nights. Prophet Muhammad, he was married to one of the biggest, richest women that used to work in trade between Syria and Saudi Arabia. And by the way, there is nothing called Saudi Arabia. There's called Al-Hijaz. Saudi Arabia has been named after the family Al Saud. But the real name of that area is Al-Hijaz and Najd. And this is one of the main conflict that's going on in the area over there. So this is the Al-Saudi family, we'll talk about it, and the other, this is the Wahhabi who came and controlled that area. So the women have all the rights. For example, in Islam, when some woman, she's used to have a maid at her parents' home, if she get married, the husband is obliged to give her a maid. If she is, whatever she asks, she should have. There is nothing called veil, because if you take a look to Hajj in Mecca, you're not going to see any woman with a veil in her face. So those are cultures that it came and tried to veil the woman. That doesn't exist. Women and man during Hajj, they pray next to each other's. So there's a lot, women in Islam have more rights than man. Prophet Muhammad, before he died, the last speech he had, he said, always, usikum bin nisa'i khayran. Always, he said that more than 5 times in the last speech. He said, take care of the woman. Okay, what we know about jihad, what everybody talk about jihad and Wahhabis. Jihad in Islam, the real jihad is to work, to learn, to feed your family, to educate your family and the people around you. There is nothing called go and kill. This is not jihad in Islam. Who have the right to announce war and call for jihad war, it's a government. There's not, in Islam, a clerk or anybody, he will say, okay, if he's an Islamic leader, ask a group of people who've been brainwashed to go and suicide themselves, this is not jihad, because he doesn't have the right and the authority. He's not authorized. This is in the principle of Islam. We talked about the Wahhabi. The main problem that we have today, the Wahhabi, it is a movement that being created by the British to control the what's called Saudi Arabia today, which is Al-Hijaz for that oil countries and that area. And everybody remember very well that we used to support al-Mujahideen in Afghanistan. Who are those Mujahideen in Afghanistan that they were fighting the Soviet Union? Those are Bin Laden's followers that they've been trained by the CIA in that time. So, and then it turned against us. What we know about the Middle East, we look to the Middle East, and we look to the Middle East like all is based on either Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Palestine and Israel. So that's what we know about the Middle East. No, Middle East is wider than that. There are several cultures over there. Not everybody who speaks Arabic, he is a Bedouin. We mix between Bedouins, Arabs, and the people. Syrians, that one of the oldest civilization in the world. The Queen Zenobia, 4,000 or 3,000 years, before Christ, she built the Palmyra, and she was feeding Rome, and she was fighting with Rome. So education and everything in that area been there 3,000 years PC. So we should not be judging the Middle East based on, okay, so we have a conflict in the Middle East. People, the mind go directly to the Gaza Strip and that area. But the Middle East is, it's wider. The Middle East is not just the Gaza Strip, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. What we know about those fanatics, we talked about it. Those are just people who would like to control other people. It's a small group, it's a small movement that the media helped them to come up to the surface. But they are not even a fraction of a 1,000,000% per person. We talked about, there is no clash of civilization. Today we're talking about clash of civilization. No, there's no clash of civilization. We're all human beings. The problem is a clash of or miscommunication. We need a communication skills. We don't know how to communicate with each others, which is blue for me could be a dark blue for you or for her. You see, everybody was looking, everybody in the rest of the world want the American dream. We want to keep our American dream, and the rest of the world, they would like to have the American dreams. The question is that we need to ask ourselves is how we eliminate terror, not how we fight terror. You know, eliminating terror, it's the goal that we should have in mind, not fighting violence against violence, and it's not going to born other than violence. Okay, by gathering the answers from the questions that we have, we would like to go to the next step is what are our, as Americans, what is our worries and threats? The way I look at it is losing our position as a superpower. We have a problem with the oil. We have a problem with the raw materials. Lately, the cost of raw materials is going up. All this is going to affect our American dream, our life. It's going to affect us economically. We are afraid that some of the commodities will be sold in euros, and this will hurt our US dollar as a dollar by itself. China and India, and they are gaining what we lose. Whatever we lose, they gain. So it's a physics. Whatever we lose, they gain. We are afraid of high manufacturing costs and a bad business environment to happen over here. We see a lot of businesses is going outside, going to China, and there are people who are losing jobs. Losing life, that's one of the threats that we have. We are losing life. Okay, the terror, one of the terror acts is killing people. But also, if somebody will come over here and shut down all the schools for 20 years and get all the children in the school to get illiterate, this is terror. Terrors have several faces. It's not only the violence. You know, downgrading our lifestyle. The lack of communication that we have with the rest of the world, that's very dangerous. It's a one-way. You know, the other threat that we have is, the way I call it, the square-headed, is with the mindset, we do not listen to the others, and we don't want to know about the other people's culture. What could be our goals? So the way I look at it is that's where you need to brainstorm it. I just put those things to get your opinion on it. So we need to have a balanced, sustainable economic growth with fair global competitive advantage. That's for our interest, to see the world, you know, to have in our area balanced and sustainable economical growth, so to secure our the economical future for our kids. Just and caring societies. Mature democratic universe. You know, everybody will ask for democracy. Okay, nice. For someone who have no money to feed his daughter, you know, he's ready to get $50 to give his vote to anyone. So we're talking about, and not, you know, we need a mature democratic society, mature in all means, economically, mentally. The solution, We're looking always to a multi-engine comprehensive network solution. So with the solution are naturally born. We don't want to just talk about tactics and the small fix and quick fix. We have to prioritize our problems that we talked about. If we prioritize our problem and we prioritize our goals, automatically the solution will born between the marriage of our problems and our goals. First of all, we want to get into to be as a solution provider for us and for others. When we are a solution providers, we will be needed. Second, everybody talk about market economy. There's nothing called market economy. There's something called, the reality is there is knowledge economy with market tactics. Because today, the fast movement of goods, the short life cycle of product, the low manufacturing cost in other countries, the mobility of the investment, if we do not have here what we call it intensive innovative industries with a lot of knowledge. That's why the universities have a lot of responsibility to implant in our mind, in the student's mind, the idea of going with knowledge in depth. That way we could keep our competitive advantage on that. How we control the oil reserve and supply. I don't take it in a negative way. We have the right to control the oil, so our machines they will be working. It doesn't mean when you say control in the negative way that go and dominate other people's countries and kill them and get their oils. No, I'm talking about a win-win-win partnership. So to start with bettering human-to-human relationship with those people in the oil-producing countries, capitalizing on education in the way that we need to send more mission to educate, to train their trainers at the university, at the schools. We need to have an online, a very cheap internet, reliable in their area, and create program to educate their people. This is, in the end, it's a win-win. We have to level up those people. The other thing is, now everybody will know that a lot of the goods are manufactured in China. The strategical mistake that we're doing is those people, those countries that they have oil, they have unemployment, high rate of unemployment. If we, instead of manufacturing in China, because we take the manufacturing, the investment that we're doing in manufacturing in China, we'll do it in those countries. We will create jobs. Manufacturing cost will be the same, even less. Labor, etc., etc. It is not more expensive than China. And we will be inside helping the other program, the educational program, the communication, human-to-human relationship. So we want, that way we will have no problem is getting cheap oil or getting a more control of the oil that is helping our machine to run over here. So the strategical mistake that we did, we went into China that they have no oil and we invested in China. So the idea is, in the end, is we want to regain the heart, the brain, and the brain of those people. But there is no way we can regain their heart and their brain if we don't go through their stomach. So they have to create job for them. So in the end is we're helping ourselves. We can create industry that will help our own industry to manufacture the raw materials that we need, that it's based on energy. We have a shortage of energy over here, so that's based on energy. We can use that. We need to build up here center of excellence for renewable energy and for energy savings. I mean, we are spoiled with consumption of energy over here, and this is a big risk for the future. Now, the other thing that also we're talking about is we have to control the economic growth of China and India, because when we see that they are averaging 9% or 8% per year economic growth, quote unquote, and this is what they claim, it could be more than that, this will affect us directly by increasing the cost of the raw materials, because there will be more demand on the raw materials. And it's actually what happened in the last 6 months. In the last 6 months, the cost of the raw material doubled. So it's affecting us, it's affecting our way of life. The other thing is we need to have multi-scenarios program to make sure that no commodities will be sold in euro, must be sold or in dollars. We have to have a better manufacturing environment over here and low manufacturing costs. For example, let me give you this. Do you know in Japan the interest rate is 0? Why the interest rate is 0? Because they are trying to subsidize their industry. The cost of money in Japan, it's very low. And now if you look at it, they are trying to bankrupt some banks because they do not want to bankrupt companies that they have bad loans. So we have to have low cost of money, energy cost, all our manufacturing costs to keep it low. The number 7, what's my lucky number? What is the terror? That's the terror that we're talking about. It is the fruit of the hatred tree that been nurtured by ignorance and poverty. So the way we want to eliminate terrorism, we want to go back to the root. There is a hatred tree that is giving us, those terror acts being nurtured by ignorancy and by poverty. So we need to go into deep understanding of others' cultures and their problems, sending and receiving professor in a fact-finding mission to see to overlap the image with reality. A lot of people that they've been here in Syria, students from BYU, before they get to Syria, they have a different image than the image that they have now when they come out of Syria. We have several students here, they can tell you about this. So image and reality, 99.9% are not 100% overlapping and correct. The other, we need to free up our mind from the media control. There is no difference today with the media is controlling the news and controlling us and the iron curtain that the Soviet Union that they used to have. Because less information, less true information we have handicapped answers and reaction to any matters that will affect us and would affect our relation with the others. Now, the same problem could have a different understanding and different interpretation from different people based on their education, religion, background, business background, their financial status. So we would like to communicate in the way that the things that I would like to really ask your opinion on, if we could do it. We need a very simple form. In that form, we put the questions, and we get the answer from a university professor in that field, from a teacher at the high school, from a man in a uniform, from a business person, from a Islamic clerk, from a bishop. But we'll see also their background. This is American, the other Syrian, the other Iraqis. Put all this in one page for the main questions that they are the main source of the problem that we're facing today. And we will publish it. We will create this website in the way that other people will go and to see the different point of view or the different interpretation or understanding of those problems. So we will help the first step in communication, by showing the difference opinion or interpretation of the problem. So that's actually what I would like really to come out of this room with the possibility of creating some teamwork that can start on doing this one, and we can have also the possibility of getting answers on those questions from presidents. So from presidents of Syria or president of the US or others. So this could be a pioneering action that we could do to get people together. You know, sitting here in this room, talking to each other's, okay, that's fine. We understand. We can come up to a conclusion. That's very, very limited. The internet, it is the gift of the to the humanity. We have to use it. And we can use it very simply. So we can get other universities involved. We can get a lot of government agencies involved. So that's actually what I would like to emphasize on. You know, from professors, we talked about this, different occupation. You know, to eliminate the terror, another thing we need to keep in mind, and this is, you know, we're talking about strategy. The problem with the post-war plan that at the Iraqi war was no Marshall Plan. The Iraqi people, they were waiting to get $50 to $75 a month, the check from their oil. If we did that, we do not have the problem that we have today in Iraq. People lost hope. So we have to enlarge the educational, I mean, what we have is we need to create an educated, dynamic society in those countries. Because the middle class, educated, dynamic society is the immune system for wherever we go. The great USA today, it is great because the majority of the people are middle class. When you have filthy rich or poverty, no middle class, all the problem will rise. So what we need to help in those countries to come up with dynamic, educated, middle class society where automatically the mature democracy will born. Democracy, it needs to born after an economical reforms by enlarging the middle class society. We talked about the education program that we have to have with the internet, high-speed internet. Okay, the other thing is we need to emphasize on something is we have to push those people to read the Quran within the eyes of the living people, not of the dead. The problem is we'll see that the Quran has been read and interpreted by the deads, that they've been passed away 1400 years ago. We have to bring also to the surface that in Islam always there is a balance between rights and duties. I do not come to you and ask you for my money before I deliver my job to you. And this is within the Islamic doctrine, but we have to take it out to the surface. You know, we need to teach people by example. Why the US today is the superpower? Why the best living standard is in the US? Why? Because the US is the only country in the world that it is living within an interdependency state. The rest of the world are living with dependency. Let's see Europe, France, it's a dependency. They are depending on the government. The state of dependency, when it gets to the mind, those people, they will lose hope and they will say, I'll depend on my dad or I depend on God to give me food, or, they're not motivating, they're not moving. So we want to create hope. We want to create a hope for their kids. You know, Stephen Covey said that, and this is something I would like to conclude with, is live to love, to learn, and to leave a legacy. The way he mentioned it is stomach, heart, mind, and soul. I mean, the basic needs, starting with food, home. I want to eat. I want a home. After that, when we get home and we get the food, we would like to have some social gathering, heart, loving others, and others love us. So after that, automatically, when you get stomach and your heart, automatically you will ask yourself, okay, I want to learn the mind. When you learn, you will see, oh, there is no way I can live by myself. I have to be an interdependent. So I will talk about to leave a legacy after that. So it's a challenge, it's not a problem. What we're talking about, it's all challenges. They are not problems. So don't forget that China, EU, Russia are benefiting from what we're losing. They gain. The other thing is, if we take a look, the way we resolve the problem now is we are repeating the same process and expecting a different result. It's not going to happen. We have to change the process that we are approaching our problem and to resolve it. So I hope that was just not too late for you. And I'm ready to take any questions.
Slow down the growth of India and China so that they do not threaten us as a hegemonic power? Is that?
Okay. Your question, okay, we have interest. I mean, here, we're not talking about just, romance. There's interest. And one of our interests is the oil. We need oil, correct? So, if we can have some kind of a formula based on a win-win. In China, we're not getting oil from China. We are helping China to be as a superpower. The fast economical growth in China is hurting us by increasing the price of our raw materials and oil. So, okay, instead of strategically speaking, I have an interest with you. Why I want to go and invest with him? I'll come and invest with you since it's equal, on the same level of the competitiveness. Your labor cost is the same. So I have more interest to be your partner than being your enemy. Yes, we're making a strategical mistakes by helping China and not helping ourselves. You don't get anything? Sure.
So what do you think then, if the U.S. were to pursue this policy, and due to the current situation in Iraq and the negative image that is portraying of American policy in the Middle East, what are the possibilities of the population in general in the Middle East being open to American investment in their countries? Would that not be viewed as an invasion of their culture by the Americans?
Okay, let me give you the answer in two ways. First of all, let me give you the Syrian position. Syria already told the American the following: we are ready and we are open for any FDI, foreign direct investment, coming from the US. There was a last tender for gas, big tender, like $1.2 billion for gas in Syria. Who won that? Oxy Chemicals. The French, they were upset. Even the French, they were allied with Syria. They were Total France. They were extremely upset because they lost that. That's number one. I'm talking on the government level. On the acceptance from the people. Whatever is coming from the US in business and other things, people's hearts are open for that. There is more love for the Americans in the Middle East as a people, as individual, than anybody else. So what I want to go back to what we talked about is, instead of assuming, we need to have fact-finding missions, going specially to get the answers, and creating that website that we talked about, and get all the feedback and go there. Because everything we do now it's two things are dangerous. Two dangerous factors: the state of uncertainty and assumption. So we have to attack those two.
So I have no doubt that what you presented to us today would make a huge difference in the world, but what do we do?
That's the $1 million questions.
Yeah.
So
what can I do? I'm not a
correct.
I don't have millions of
No, what we could do, as we talked about, let's create a website. Let's put the major important questions. And let's get answers of those questions from a different type of people, from a different background, religion, education, nationalities, etc., and we publish this. And we could have the biggest database. In this university, we can have a biggest database that everybody will be looking for, from presidents to the smallest person or to a kid in the kindergarten, to know what do you think about this matter and how do you answer these questions. So what we could do is, today, is shorten the gap by having a way of communication. And the best way to do it is just you will say your interpretation of that question, and I will say my interpretation to that question, and later on we will have the possibility to create some kind of a brainstorming message, and in the end, okay, this is the answer that will come after a voting of 2,000 people on it. We think this is the answer for that question.
You mentioned in passing that you thought that part of the solution would be to free our minds from media control.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if you can describe how you see that control. Is it deliberate? Is it just because of the relative ignorance of our media? Or what causes it?
Okay. Let me ask you this. When you open the 10 o'clock news, what do you see in your 10 o'clock news here in Utah?
Utah News, yeah.
Utah News. Okay. You know, the thing is, we need to know what's going on. Okay, to keep our position as a superpower. If we would like to keep our position as a superpower, I'm not saying by dominating, no. We need to be aware what's really going on in the rest of the world, and we need to know the truth, the true reality, not the image, not the stereotype. So we need to go in depth. We need to go to be extremely hard on the problem. Being hard on the problem, we need to know more what's really going on in that.
So what alternative sources of information would you suggest?
You have the internet, and we have what we talked about. We could start something pioneering on that.
You made the statement, or it came out this way basically, democracy comes from an educated middle class naturally. If you have a large educated middle class, then that will naturally breed the processes that lead toward democracy. It seems to me that the American foreign policy is based on the idea that an educated middle class comes from having democracy already.
Okay.
And so, which comes first?
Okay. First of all, we want to talk about democracies. We're talking about mature democracy. In a society where there is no middle class, there will be a lot of poor people and a lot of filthy rich people. Okay, so for a poor person, what he cares about to get a $50 to buy a drug for his daughter. And for a guy who have interest in politics and other things, he have no problem for $100,000 to get 3-4 people killed directly or indirectly. Let's agree that the middle class is the immune system in the society. So when you have a middle class, educated, dynamic, respected, whatever decision or voting they will do, it will be a mature, and there is no way they can buy it out. Let me give you the example of Iraq. If today we will tell the Iraqis, okay, let's vote. Who get the votes? Who do you think would get the vote there? Who?
Whoever's currently in power.
No, the fanatics. Not the fanatics, but the what do you call it? The Islamic leaders. I'm a person who believes in separation between church and state. Again, why they will vote for a person he might have the Quran by heart, but personally I'm not gonna give him a position in my office to run two people. He's not capable. He doesn't have the capacity. He might be the honest person in the world. He doesn't have the capacity and knowledge to do it. The reason is they will vote for him because they will think that he will give them, in a way or another, job. The other thing is they will go not by their brain. We love him. That's why we will vote for him. So maturing, it's very, very important. And maturity level is not going to come if you don't have a hands-on experience. If you have a hands-on experience and you accumulated your experience, so you build up whatever you have, and you became a middle-class citizen, educated and dynamic, whatever decision you take, you analyze it first, you put the bad and the good, and you take the decision based on that. So the American, what they are asking for, and they, put it this way, they ask for democracy first, and then we said, okay, no, we want to go, we don't want to have an Islamic state over there like Iran. We want to go like the Turkish model. What's the Turkish model? Okay, everybody will vote, and the military will decide. So, so again, we are looking not for a quick fix. We want to have engines. We want to implant engines that will create the solution. And we have to focus. The goal is the middle-class society that will resolve the problem.
Sorry, I've got lots of questions.
Good.
But so if we're going to create a form of democratic society, and a precursor to democracy is the middle class, is the way that middle class going to come into existence? Is that going to come through foreign direct investment into those countries?
It will help a lot, of course, because when you have a foreign direct investment, let me give you an example. When we walked today, we're coming over here, we saw Geneva Steel shut down. Okay, where's the business okay, they lost the business. From where we're getting the steel now? No, actually not Mauritania, from Ukraine. A lot is coming from Ukraine. Why Geneva Steel went under?
They got undersold.
No, because
So
they were.
it's cheaper to import there.
Okay, why is cheaper over there?
Because labor's cheaper.
It's not only labor. Labor and energy, two things. Okay, so you have a country like, let's say, like Sudan or Algeria, that they have oil. So that means source of energy. And they have the iron ore. So instead of helping the Ukrainians and getting investment in Ukraine, we're not getting anything from them. You do like the Geneva Steel, you take it and you put it there. And this plan, I don't know, a couple thousand people that they were working there, or 4,000 people that were working there. So the FDI, the foreign direct investment, always they will come with big manufacturing facilities. The big manufacturing facility will observe big number of people. But around this, it will be a lot of SMEs, small and medium enterprise, that will supply this big engine. So this 4,000 people that they will be working like in a Geneva Steel, around them, those are 4,000 families, around them could be 10,000 families working there. So yes, we need the foreign direct investment will generate a lot of jobs.